This is a quick video on Lab7Activity1 for Lab 7 Elasticity, where we're going to be looking at the young modulus for a beam. We have an aluminum beam and a steel beam. Before we start the experiment, just a brief description of the apparatus. These are going to be our two supporting stands where the beam is going to be placed. You can see this one is set in place, but this one is movable. And this will allow you to change your supporting length, okay? And this here is used to house our micrometer gauge, which is located here, and it needs to be placed at the center of our supporting length, so it's also on a movable platform. So to set up the experiment, you want to take your little wire and pick one of the beams, place the wire on the beam, and then place your beam across the length you have chosen. And then here, the micrometer gauge, you can pull on this to allow you to place the beam underneath. Okay, so it should be briefly touching onto the beam once it's in place. You can turn it on here. And once it's in place, you want, before I zero it, I want to ensure it's in the center of my supporting length. So to do that, I'm going to measure the length. So I'm going to go from one support to the other. Okay, and I'm at about 76. So we're going to be placing it at about 38. And I need to move it over just slightly. Okay. And now I'm going to be measuring the deflection right at the center of my supporting length, okay, between my two supports. Once you have it set, then you want to zero your gauge, okay, and then you pick a weight, and you place it on, and there will be a deflection. The weight will sort of bend the bar, and you can measure that. So in this case, it's 0.92 millimeters. So for this supporting length and a mass of 200 grams, we have a deflection of about 0.92 millimeters. You are going to be repeating this experiment by changing the side of your beam, because this is a rectangular beam, and also by changing the length. So every time you change the length, you also have to adjust where the micrometer gauge is placed. Remember, you want it to be in the center of your supporting length. And then you would add another weight. You will need to do some measurements. You'll also need to measure the width and height of your beams, and you can do that using the caliper.